my name is Erin. Welcome back to the Stitches and Scribbles channel. Today I'm going to be doing a crochet with me style video because I'm doing a little bit of an experiment. So kind of backtracking to the inspiration for this video, I noticed that there's a lot of 70s and 90s trends floating around on Instagram, TikTok, with the thrifting community, all that stuff. And I found it very surprising that ponchos have not made an appearance in any of those trends. I grew up in the 90s into early 2000s, and ponchos were very big, especially I guess more in the early 2000s and the 90s. And I know that that was a 70s resurgence trend at that time. So I'm going to start crocheting a poncho. I have seen some kind of more modern poncho designs that I'm taking inspiration from. A lot of them start with a hexagon motif and you build out the poncho from there instead of doing the like giant granny squares or two big rectangles. So you end up with kind of a softer poncho silhouette, and it's longer in the back than in the front. So we'll kind of explain that as we keep going through the video. I'm not using a pattern for this. I'm taking inspiration from some Pinterest pictures and other patterns I've seen, because a lot of them, even though they all kind of start with that hexagon motif, a lot of them have like a tree in the middle of that motif that I saw online, and that's not really the style I'm going for. So I'm going to try to DIY this to the best of my ability. For my yarn for this poncho, I'm using the Havana yarn from Hobbii, and this is what the cake looks like that I'm using. This cake is 55% cotton, 45% acrylic. It's approximately 800 meters. It's a 250 gram cake. This is color number 4, and it's from the Mayflower yarn brand that Hobbii carries. This recommends using a 3.5 to 4 millimeter hook for this yarn, but I really want the yarn length to stretch, and I want it to have really good drape. So I'm probably going to use a much bigger hook size, maybe even like a 5.5, go up that big, to really get the most out of this yardage, since I don't want to have to order a second one to continue the project. So I'm going to go ahead and get started by watching a hexagon motif tutorial on YouTube. I'll link whichever one I use in the description box below. But yeah, let's get started. Okay, so I have gotten quite a few rows done on my little hexagon. So the goal here is to continue the hexagon until one side is the width I want the hole for my neck to be. So I think the goal is for it to be like slightly boat-necked, but not so much that it's off the shoulder. So we're just going to keep going. I love how this yarn is working up. So the way the yarn cake works, there's 2 strands woven together to make up the yarn. It's actually more than that, but like 2 different colors at any point in the thread. So one of the colors is changing really slowly to give that ombre effect, but the other one is changing much more frequently through all the other colors. So that's how it gets this like speckled ombre effect, and I just love how it's working up so far. I think this is going to be a really pretty like summer into fall piece, just because of the colors. I've been really into browns lately, so this is definitely something I've been looking forward to working with. But I'm just going to keep going until my hexagon reaches the size I want for my neck hole. Alright, hello again. It is now day 2 of working on this project. Sorry if you can hear the fan in the background. It's pretty hot today, so I have the fan going to keep this room kind of cool. But yesterday I got this far on the back of the poncho, so I'm starting into the red tones of this yarn cake. And now I'm at the point where I think each side is wide enough for it to be the neck hole. I've been like measuring it over half my head to make sure I can get my head through it. So the plan now is on one of the edges to not crochet into any of the stitches, but to chain stitch the same number of stitches that would be here so that I get an opening on one of the sides, if that makes sense. And the reason why I want to get this step done now is because later today I'm actually meeting some friends at a beer garden. So I'd really like this project to be at the point where I can kind of work on it mindlessly, like back into the just plain granny stitch section and not have to worry about any counting. So hopefully I can get that done before I go to the park, and then hopefully I can get some clips and take you guys with me because I really love a good outdoor crafting session. So again, the plan is just to chain stitch in order to make the neck hole on one of these sides. Okay, trying to make sure not to drop my hook. I finished the neck hole, so I just did those same little double crochet clusters of 2 and just made sure I had the same number across the chain as I did on one of the normal sides so that it would be the same size when I continue. So now the only step left really is just to continue this giant granny hexagon until I've used up almost all of the yarn. I do think I want to maybe add a pom-pom trim to the edge, but we'll see how much yarn I have left when I get to that point. So on to mindless crocheting and maybe some outdoor crocheting later. Alright, I'm going to say this fast. We're going to ignore the wind and the yard work, whatever that's going on, but we changed locations. Instead of a beer garden, we're actually going to a wine bar. But I got here early, so I'm sitting outside and I'm going to do some crochet in the park nearby. I did make a slight change to what my original plan was. I think I'm going to not work the increases on the 2 front corners of the hexagon. I did that for a couple rows already and then tried it on, and it was like too frilly in the front. So I'm just going to work the hexagon without increasing in these 2 corners so that it'll kind of sit flat. Hopefully I can get a clip of me working on it, but my camera is about to die, so we'll see. Hello again, it's now Monday, so I unfortunately did not get a chance to work on this over the weekend, but I did get quite a bit done while I was sitting at the park in the last clip. Luckily my camera battery lasted through getting a short little clip of me crocheting in the park. But this is what the front of the poncho is starting to look like. So as I very hurriedly explained in the last clip where I was talking, I stopped doing the decreases that were at the top two corners just so that the front of the poncho would lay a little bit flatter. So you can see I've got a couple rows of that going now. So I'm just going to continue. This is what my yarn cake looks like now. It got a little squashed in my backpack. But we're just going to keep crocheting. Hi everyone, it is now Wednesday of the week that I'm working on this, and I think I've gotten to a point where I can add some trim to it. So what you saw in the last clip was me working on this front section. I actually stopped going all the way around, so I just went from one front corner to the other without adding anything, so you can see that the edge of the back stops at the teal instead of going all the way to the blue. The front is still a little bit on the short side for a poncho, which is fine. This was kind of an experiment. But I am going to add some bobble edging to it to give it kind of a fringe effect without actually adding fringe all over. And I'm thinking that should lengthen the front panel just a little bit, but if not, I realized it's kind of looking like a cape instead of a poncho, so it might actually be a really good Ren Fair costume piece, but we'll see. In the meantime, I'm going to add that fringe and hopefully finish this before I have to head to my craft fair this afternoon. And here is the finished piece. So it did turn out a little bit shorter than I would have liked in the front, but I was not going to wait 2 weeks to finish the video just to get another skein of this yarn shipped from Denmark, so I just decided to make do. But when I went back and looked at some of my inspiration pictures on Pinterest, a lot of them were this short in the front, but then they go down like past the hips in the back. So turned out pretty cool. I also could still see this being really useful if you just want to cover your shoulders, maybe avoid some sunburn or anything like that. I think this could be a great addition to a funky wardrobe. I also actually think that this would be a great Ren Fair piece, which I think I mentioned earlier, since it does look more like a cape, but I could see it, you know, like pin it up with a little brooch or a pin or something over a like corset and one of the poofy blouses or dresses, and that could be a really pretty addition. It's also not super warm because I made it with the lightweight cotton and because there's actually a lot of space between the stitches, so it's almost more like a mesh. But yeah, that is the finished poncho. Definitely turned out better than I thought it was going to. Within the last couple steps I was really nervous about how it was going to look, but I think it turned out great and I'm happy that I made it. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to see more crafty content from me, make sure that you subscribe so that you get to see all of my videos. And you can also check the description below to see where to follow me on other social media so that you can stay updated. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye everyone!